Okay. So my first question was, what was your most dangerous kayaking trip?
I was out off the coast of Quebec. I paddled out to some islands that were kind of far offshore. But I could tell you what you can. I can give you more details if you want. But that was
Please.
okay. So if you drive, if you go down the Ottawa River until it gets to the St. Lawrence River,
Yeah.
and you hang a left, right, that takes you to the very far end where the St. Lawrence River gets wider and wider and wider, just becomes part of the sea. And you take the road to the very far end, and there is a little town there, and there's a national park. And there's a bunch of islands in that national park. And I paddled out to some islands that were offshore out there, and there was actually like the possibility of like winds, tides, fog, and it was a little bit scary because when I was crossing over to camp on an island out there, the wind and the tide and everything kind of came up, and I was getting sort of thrown around a little bit. And when I think about it now, I wasn't wearing as much gear as I should have. Like now I wear a dry suit that protects your whole body, seals up, keeps the water off of you. I was not wearing that. If I'd fallen in, I would have died.
Did you get hurt or something?
No, but I was in the boat, and for maybe about 20 minutes, it was really rough. And if I flipped over, it was so cold, I would have not come back. So.
Do you do your kayaking trips alone or with people?
That time was alone. I've done a lot alone, but most recently I've been doing it with friends quite a bit because it's just fun to have other people around for camping or whatever. But every time I travel, I always try and go, if there's any ocean nearby, I'll always get a kayak and go on a trip by myself if I can.
What's your favorite thing about kayaking?
Oh. Exploring new places.
So you do you go and you kayak to somewhere, then you camp there, and then you kayak back?
Yeah, and sometimes we'll travel, if it's for the day, I do that a lot too. You just go somewhere and explore around. It's like hiking on the water, right? And I'll go places and then you'll take photos or whatever. So that would be a day trip, right? Where we'll be just it's like exactly like hiking. We'll be like, let's go to that island and explore. I like to take pictures, hang around. And other times what we'll do is we'll go to one place that's not easy to get to, and then we'll camp there for a few days, and then we'll explore the area, right? And last summer, though, my friend and I did a big trip where we went from just one direction, and we did 100 kilometers. That sounds like a lot, but if you're doing it every day, it'd be like walking. If the three of us, we walked for 2 hours a day, in a week, we would be 80 kilometers or something like that. So
Okay.
you go a distance, camp for a few days, explore, go a bit further, so that way you get to camp at a few spots.
Yeah. How long have you been kayaking?
Probably started when I was about, do you see the audio wave there? 30 years? 35 years? 30 years, more or less.
How did you start?
I actually took classes. I'd seen it earlier. I was actually in a place in Ontario hiking, and I saw some people sea kayaking, and I thought that was really cool.
We're going to go there this summer.
And when Bruce Peninsula, and then when I was living in Vancouver, I actually took the time to take lessons.
Cool. Where are your favorite places to kayak?
Where there are no children.
Okay.
Away from children. The ocean. I like two things. I like the ocean, but the place that I like the most is Georgian Bay. It's in Ontario because there's a million little rocky islands out there. It's amazing. It's beautiful, and it can still get real if the weather's windy. It can still get a little bit dangerous. You have to know what you're doing.
How long are your kayaking trips?
I tend to either go out for a day or my friend and I go out for a week or two in the summer. I try to go for a week-long trip every summer.
Cool.
It's great. I get in wicked shape from it. In a week, I'll lose 10 pounds.
Do your equipment for kayaking cost a lot of money?
That's all relative because you know what? Compared to cars and house things, it's like kayaking's like bicycling, right? You spend a couple. I think I spent $3,000 on my kayak, but that was 15 years ago. So it's like a bicycle. Like my bike that I have now, I'll probably keep for years and years and years. So it's not cheap, and if you don't have a lot of money, that's a lot of money to spend. But once you have it, that's basically it, right? It's helpful to have a car because we can move from place to place to use it. But if you think about it, it's like a bike. Like when you get a bike fixed, you go to a bike mechanic, and the bike mechanic will be, I've got terrible news for you. The repair on your bicycle is going to be like $80, and you're like, because if you have a car, everything that breaks on your car is like $1,000. Like, not always, but it's like bikes are cheap, kayaks are cheap. I could buy a beautiful new kayak every 10 years, and it's like nothing compared to cars. Cars are the worst, aren't they?
Cars are the worst.
They just eat money.
Totally.
So expensive for if you don't have a lot of money to put the money up front, but it's worth it. It's like buying a bike. I would always tell people, like, we should give people tax breaks if you're buying a bike or a kayak. Everyone should be able to buy stuff like that without paying taxes.
Like, what kind of equipment do you use for kayaking?
It varies, of course, right? Because sometimes I do it in really hot tropical places where
Varies, did you say?
it varies a lot. Like it varies as in a variety of gear, right? Because sometimes I'm doing it in really hot places where the kayak is like open on top and we're jumping out to go snorkeling or whatever. Here, so you're always wearing different clothing depending on how cold it is. But the standard stuff that we would have when we're going on a trip would be you're wearing like a vest, right? Which has it helps you float in the water, have little pockets, your paddle. And then when we're going on multiple nights, we've got all of our gear, like sleeping bag, tent, stove, and all that kind of stuff, and little bags that are all waterproof, and we kind of stuff them in different places. It's like backpacking, but you can carry more stuff with you. It's fun.
So the kayak can fit a lot of stuff?
It can, yeah. Like I used to do a lot of backpacking where you would be carrying everything on your back into the mountains or whatever, and a kayak can carry a lot. Like if I have fresh water, right? So when we're on a lake or whatever, I could probably go for about 2 weeks before I ran out of food.
Do you do it in the winter? Do you do kayaking in the winter?
Not well when everything's frozen, no, but we'll go pretty late. And I'll probably go out now, even though the water's really cold. So as soon as the ice is gone, then we'll go out. My friend and I sometimes, though, he couldn't go this year because he unfortunately got in a car accident and hurt his arm. But normally, a couple weeks ago, on the Ottawa River here, the ice starts to break up. You get these sheets of ice that are like the size of like a tennis court, right? More or less. And they float down the river. So we paddle up to those, and then we pull. Sometimes we go in kayak, sometimes we go in a canoe. And then we pull up onto the ice, and we get lawn chairs, and then we drink a beer while the ice floats down the river. It's kind of fun. You can do that here. You guys can do that when you're older. We could go out.
Have you ever gotten hurt during like your kayaking trips?
On shore, not in the boat.
What happened?
Slipped on a rock. You know, standard just being on shore stuff. I slept on a rock and like sprained my arm, like sprained my wrist a little bit.
Could you still kayak after that?
Yeah, I was okay, but it hurt. It's like when you do canoe trips most of the time, when people do like whitewater canoe trips, most of the time people do get hurt in their boats. They get like carrying stuff around on slippery rocks. You fall, you twist your ankle or whatever.
Do you have any other hobbies?
God, yeah.
Like what else?
Well, in the winter I snowshoe and cross-country ski. I bicycle a lot. We mean like athletic hobbies, like, or just hobbies? Comic books. I like science fiction and fantasy. I read a lot of books. I cook.
Sports hobbies.
Yeah, mostly hiking, bicycling, paddling, snowshoeing, and cross-country skiing.
What was your longest, like, most long, like, in kilometers trip, like, ever, like, it doesn't have to be kayaking, it can be anything?
It was kayaking. Oh, I think I might have biked about 150 kilometers in a few days once, but the one that I can remember for sure was the kayaking trip I did last summer was about 100 kilometers. I've backpacked 70 kilometers.
I've hiked backpack,
Like I've walked 70 kilometers. You guys have done some walks too, haven't you?
Yeah, I did like a 30.
Yeah, it's surprising how much you can cover if you take like multiple days, right?
Yeah, I took 2 days for like 30, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You weren't carrying big heavy pack then.
No, not really. Well, that's all I've got. Thanks for your time.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
That'll be $10.